It is some vague time after 5 o'clock on the West Coast on a Wednesday. That means one thing and one thing only. The No Proscenium review crew has gathered in deep in the metaverse to talk about the stuff that has been intriguing us of late. All things immersive and a few things beyond the regular immersive sphere. Joining me this week, also here in Los Angeles, is...
Hey, this is Kevin Goss.
Who is our LA Reviews editor, and coming to us from the East Coast.
Hi, this is Blake Weil.
All right. We're gonna. Oh, and I guess I should say who I am. I'm Noah Nelson. I'm functioning as host this week, and I've been gone for a bit, so I can barely remember how to do any of this. Kevin, we know you may be pulled away by a work thing, and you've got something you'll have to talk about. But I wanna. We'll get to you in a minute. Hold on. We'll get to you. I know you're raring to go. Hold on, Kevin. Hold on. But this week, we're probably going to be less in immersive directly than not. But Blake, you and I have been playing the same video game lately.
Oh yeah.
And I want to start there. Yeah.
I am a big fan of, and I will let you take the floor on that one, because this I think I'm a little bit further than you, and I want you to set the pace on spoiler level. We won't go into anything too major, I don't think, so don't run away. But if you want to go in totally blind, tell us about the game's title and give us a countdown.
So here's what I'm going to say. The game we're going to talk about is Inscryption. And there's a reason why we're talking about it on this podcast, because of all the video games I have come across in quite some time. And I'm including the Black Watchman, which is an ARG in video game form, which I started tackling a little while ago. This is the most hitting you in the immersive feels that I have encountered. I really don't want, like, everyone who talks about this game is being super circumscript about what they're talking about. So what I'm going to say is we will talk about things from early in the first act. So Blake, just when the ARG elements start to, more when the escape elements start to come in than really the ARG elements. But I will note that functionally there kind of are ARG elements right from minute one in this piece. It's really an incredible feat. So this game ostensibly, and this is definitely a game that we can say is ostensibly something. This game is ostensibly...
It's ostensibly a lot of things.
It's ostensibly a lot of things, but what it presents itself as is a collectible card trading game. It's the core mechanic of it. So this thing kicks off, and you're in like a 3D environment. There's this. I think the really telling thing is right from this. Not really telling, but one of the really interesting things is it starts off, and there's a little moment before that happens that will make you go kind of like, well, that's weird. And then you're given, there's 4 options. There's new game, continue, credits, and then I think there's one other option.
Options.
There's options, right at the start. Those are the 4 options you're given. And new game is blacked out. You cannot intersect with new game, and this is right from the beginning. So already you're put on the wrong foot, and you've got to continue. And then you go into this space, and there is a figure shrouded in darkness sitting across from you at a table, and with these wild eyes, and it starts talking to you about playing the game. And you have this like 3D rendered kind of feeling like an early PS3 era graphics, maybe even late PS2 era graphics.
I was gonna say like about as good as like a Myst remaster.
Exactly. That level of representation of like a fully realized like table, and you're going to play this card game on this table. So you're not playing the card game on your screen so much as you're embodying a character, or that you see your hands put down. So when you pull your hands up, you see the hand. And then after you lose for the first time, you are allowed to get up from the table and move around this creepy cabin in the woods. You assume it's the woods because it feels that way, right? It's a classic cabin in the woods motif. And there are things on the walls and drawers you can interact with. And basically, it's an escape room at that point. There's all this stuff you can start messing around with. And as you mess around and solve those puzzles give you things that you can then take back to the board and use in the game. And all the while, the creepy eyes are watching you from the dark. So if you turn and look back, you will see the eyes just staring at you. And then you come back and some of the cards talk to you, kind of implying that there's something really weird going on with these cards. And as you go along, this is kind of the rhythm of it all. There's the card game mechanics, there are these escape mechanics. If you totally fail out, you will die, and there's a whole sequence. But in dying, you're also given what's called a death card. You're allowed to kind of build a new card out of the cards that you did have, and then those cards can kind of come back into the mix. It itself is really intricate, but every time you think you know what this game is about and what it's doing, there's something just outside of your knowledge that's going to come in and turn it on its head. And the surprise level is so great that I think at some point we'll have to do a spoiler cast about it, which is something we've never.
Oh yeah,
we've never really. Yeah, once we're both done with it, we'll do a spoiler cast.
Once we're both done, and once I have walked you through some of the ARG elements outside the game I've been playing with, because
nice.
This is a portal to a very rich, very long ARG.
How long has that ARG been running? Because like I definitely heard that there like it was at least a lead up to the game, right?
So there is a lead up to the game. There is stuff contained within the game.
That is correct.
And minor spoiler for fans of the developer, there's implications that it ties in to other ARGs and other properties that he has worked on.
Wow.
And what company is that, and what games are those?
So this is it's been published by Devolver. This is actually an independent developer, which is kind of a wow. I'm forgetting his name, but he's the same guy who did Pony Island and The Hex.
Yeah, and right now I'm gonna look up right now. And when I got it, there was kind of bundled. There was a little sale over the week. Daniel Mullins Games. So it's this guy named Daniel Mullins. And look, I don't know anything about this cat. For all we know, like hopefully we're not in a milkshake duck situation here. I really hope that doesn't end up happening. But yeah, Pony Island, The Hex, there was a bundle on Steam that had them all. So I got like all three for $20. This after the Waypoint radio crew just losing their minds over this game. And there's a free demo. And I started playing the demo, and within like 3 minutes, I was like, oh no, I can't do any more of this demo. I need the game right now. And I fully lost myself in it for some time. And that's the thing is like what's interesting is that, and Blake, do you
I'm biting my tongue a little bit.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. If I can try to articulate it a little bit,
Please go
what
for it.
sort of makes this game relevant to our podcast is not just kind of the fact that it does work in ARG and escape room mechanics, but it also has this very personal sense of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
The entire first act of the game, at the very least, feels like you're experiencing a one-on-one. The ARG mechanics very much have the same rise and fall to them that, like, rifling through things in a sandbox immersive might have,
Mm-hmm.
mixed with just that ARG puzzle-solving crunchiness. And overall, I think it is the only game that has given me the feeling in my adult life that I had reading haunted video game creepypasta as a
Yes.
teenager.
So there's that. It feels like I feel like I'm actually like there's a malevolent force inside this game that I am matching
Very
wits
much
with,
so. This
right?
is it's like your own little Ben Drowned adventure.
And this may be you may be too young for this. And I don't usually drop that in the cast, but this is a little older. This is one of the few things that has given me full on Blair Witch Project vibes. In
Very
ages.
much so. And
Good. I'm glad you're picking up on that vibe.
I cannot go into kind of the specifics of that.
Correct. Yeah,
But
neither of us can.
but it gets so Blair Witchy.
Yeah.
And not just in a creepy cabin in the woods with maybe a murderer sort of way.
Yeah, there's this is the shit, y'all. This is the shit. And
check it out and join us for our inevitable spoiler cast.
Yes. And seriously, like if you're a student of the form, this is really worth paying attention to on a couple of different levels, because I think it's going to introduce some of these mechanics and most importantly introduce this storytelling technique, right? And there's a whole level. Go for it.
So long as we're gushing, if you have a headset, I mean, it's not optimized for VR, but, like, please try playing this in VR, because I can't even imagine how that would feel.
I don't know if I haven't tried to plug it all in. I don't think it will. I don't know if it'll do anything other than just be like on your screen. But I would say like the cabin sequence, I was instantly going like, oh, I could see this getting ported over to the Quest.
I really hope it does.
Yeah. In time like everything, I think I think this will be ported to a bunch of different platforms. So if you don't have a PC, and I don't know what the system requirements are, like I've got a pretty good machine that I, acquired last year for doing VR stuff, but it doesn't ask a lot that from what I've seen so far. Like I don't think graphically it's going to really mess up your machine. Kevin, you felt like you might have jump in at some point.
I was going to ask, like, where is it available? Like, how can people actually play this?
It's Steam. It's like $20. Maybe it's still on sale a little bit. I picked it and the other two up for $20 for the package. Because I was just like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. If I like this so much. And
I could strongly recommend Pony Island. Never played the Hex though.
Yeah. Kevin, did you want to make your game pitch right now, or
sure? Because we can stay in that kind of like that sort of video gamey, sort of immersive, adjacent type world, and that's Blaseball again. Something new for me. Never talked about it before on this podcast. So Blaseball is sort of back right now, and they're doing. It sounds like the full experience will be back sometimes next year with an actual mobile app to kind of tie into some stuff, but in between as a treat for like kind of fans, and so they can work on some things. They're doing a series of what they're calling short circuits that sort of ties into the lore of Blaseball, but not too much, where they're running 2-week on seasons. So they'll do 2 weeks of something and then you can vote to make some changes, and then at some point another short circuit will happen for 2 weeks. So it's a way to kind of ease into Blaseball without like diving into the full on kind of craziness that it can become. So some of the elements that I've talked about that I think appeal to the kind of immersive side are not really present right now. It's much more kind of an actual baseball simulator with betting and kind of those loops, but they have smoothed it out. It feels more user friendly than it's been. Oh God, since probably sometime last year. I think it's easier to jump in. There's ways to. It's easier to bet now, and you can actually bet forward about 9 hours. So if you're going to kind of be working throughout the day or sleeping or whatever, you don't have to worry about losing out on that. You can kind of participate.
Oh, you don't have to spend every waking minute playing a video game?
Exactly.
Wow, what an innovation.
And
Sorry.
No. I think it's a good point. I think that's actually, if we tie back into the ARG thing of some of the kind of the modern ARGs, it's nice where you don't have to be focused on the damn thing for every waking hour to like feel like you're not missing out on something. So I think it's something where they are trying to make it like more sustainable for people to play and like experience, instead of just I have to watch this stupid website all day for in case something cool happens. So it is much more accessible right now if anyone wants to kind of dive in and kind of play with it. And it's beyond for 2 weeks and then take a break for a little bit.
So is it 2 weeks for one round, and so it's going to be persistent, or are they doing like, oh, this day is this, and then we're going to do a whole new set? Like, I guess
no, yeah. So it'll maintain the same rule sets. I guess that's the other part. So for 2 weeks, it'll maintain the same rule set, and then I think at the end of the second week and the normal voting period, players will have a chance to kind of vote for what the next one will kind of take on. And it seems like they're using this to test out different things that they'll probably bring forward into the actual game, whether it's this kind of betting style. And they've mentioned they have some other styles they're going to kind of try out. So I think they can figure out what works for people and what works for them and is fun from like an experience way, and what's actually functional for people to like continue playing this game long term.
I guess what I'm also asking is like, is it going to be one arc, or are these like 1 day, 2 day arcs?
So this is it's 1 2 week period is one arc sort of, and then it'll move into another almost terming like alternate universes. Like it's kind of like they're playing with new ideas. So I think maybe that the What If show that kind of ran is maybe a model. It's like, what if Blaseball was doing this for 2 weeks, and then what if Blaseball was doing this for 2 weeks, and they're kind of playing with it so you can kind of get that experience, and then probably hopefully come back when they really launch the full thing back in probably sometime early next year. I don't think anyone really knows, and they probably don't either. So they'll figure it out.
When is the next onboard day? When's the next?
So this one started on Monday. So you're technically in this onboarding period. This season will end on Friday, and then the second season of this 2 week period will start next Monday. And then I don't know when the second short circuit will start. I assume it'll probably start sometime after Thanksgiving, because they've been really trying to build that sustainability and give people breaks, both from a staff perspective and from a participant perspective.
Gotcha. They gave about a few days notice. I think I saw the thing go up last week. So,
yeah.
Hopefully they'll call their shot, because I think one thing about this, you can often feel like if you're not there from the beginning of a cycle on one of these things, like you feel like you're maybe missing out a little bit, and definitely your influence, if you're not part of the economy early on, can.
And I think that's actually
yeah.
So the economy is much tougher to kind of earn votes through the betting system right now. So I think I've been playing for a couple of days, and by this point in like the last couple of seasons, I've had, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of coins, if not millions, because the economy was real broken. And I think I've acquired about, you actually bet with votes right now, I think I've acquired about 500, because it's pretty hard to earn them right now, because it's all like, if anyone's familiar with sports betting, it's like parlays. You have to bet on multiple games to really rack up the most votes, and it's very hard to land more than like 2 or 3 at a time to actually like kind of make any increasing number of votes here. So I think it's a way to balance the economy out a little bit too. So
maybe they can maybe if they can figure out how to balance out their economy, they can figure out how to balance out our economy.
Maybe.
So, although I did just hear, I saw there's some poll that went around that apparently Mark Cuban was posting this, just saw this earlier today, something like 4% of the workforce tapped out of the workforce because of their crypto gains.
Hell yeah. That's what you like to
Which
hear.
I'm like, what? So it's like that's why they can't open that Raising Cane's in Burbank, is because everyone in Burbank's got that sweet crypto. And I just want some chicken fingers. But anyway,
Gotta burn down some forest then to get those chicken fingers. No,
I know, God, nightmare.
Chicken fingers or a limited edition JPEG of a chicken finger?
No, not even a limited edition JPEG of a chicken finger. An Excel spreadsheet line saying that I own that limited edition JPEG.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Hell yeah!
Can you visit that spreadsheet line like once a year, like that weird tungsten cube?
The tungsten cube, yeah. Oh God, it's so. I know some artists who are probably have probably secured like their kids' college fund based on this, based on NFTs. So I'm like, hey, if you can fleece a whole bunch of people, doing it, go for it. Yay. Right? Like let that happen. I just yeah.
Well, that was what happened the
You
other
just
day.
believe in reality, like a
grift.
sucker.
Wait, Kevin, what were you saying?
That happened the other day. Like someone grifted like $2 million off some weird NFT.
Squid coin.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
There's Squid Coin. No, but there's also the ape thing. Someone in a Discord, someone stole a bunch of the Bored Ape NFTs because they got social hacked on a Discord server, which I just think I giggle about. It's like, you lost $1 million because you believed it when someone said, "Oh, you're locked out of your account. Let me help you." It's like,
Oh, and then there was the, welcome to NFT Corner, the show where we talk about NFTs. There was the
no future for tacos.
Was it Toby Maguire or
Oh
was
God,
it? No,
it was
Elijah
Wood.
It was Elijah Wood. I always get the two of them confused, even though Elijah Wood's apparently much nicer, who accidentally bought like a super racist NFT or something.
Right. And now has sold it. But here's something that actually bugs me about that. So Elijah's like, "Oh, I'm going to sell this." It's like, whoa. You're still selling it. Like, maybe it's worth less now. You're just like, "I want to get rid of it." It's like, you can't just, at least this NFT style, you can't burn. Apparently there's some NFTs you can burn. And like, I don't know. So on the podcast this week, I talk with Scott Stein and I talk with Tipitat. And I don't have Tipitat's last name in front of me, which I'm not saying it right now. And Tipitat's Twitter handle is Tipitat, so I know them as Tipitat primarily. And Tipitat is one of the principals in the VR fund. And so both of them, I think we touched a little bit on NFT stuff about. And like I was saying, look, like Sutu, who is, the lead at iJack and who's done a lot of really incredible work in AR space. Like Sutu's deep into it. Lady Phoenix, who is really deep into the NFT space. Lady Phoenix is the creative lead on Brianna's Garden. Like these are Nancy Baker Cahill, who's done this amazing work, also deep into NFT space. So you've got these visual artists, these digital visual artists who've never had a market opportunity in this way. And there's so much value in there for them. And I get it. The art market has always been weird and gross in so many ways. I mean, Banksy's whole shtick is based off to some degree on how gross the art market is, right? So
I lived in Miami at the time of the banana. You do not have to tell me about how gross the art market is.
Yeah. So like it's not surprising. And I definitely worry about, no one's got the right incentives to do really honest analysis of how crypto works, what the environmental impact is, how that compares to other server farms setups, right? Like, we've eroded in general, globally, we've eroded faith in civic institutions. Note that I don't say government, right? We've eroded faith in civic institutions as an idea so deeply that there's no one who can be trusted to be like, "Oh, hey, run the numbers, tell us what's really going on. And I've seen some really solid critiques of, you know, the whole crypto economy that's mostly predicated on the idea of this idea that we're going to move to proof of stake, not proof of work, is essentially naive. I've seen that argument made. And at the end of the day, right now, it's like it's baubles. And I don't know. I see there's people. Jaden was just texting me saying that she minted her first NFT today, and it's on display at her place of work. And then Jaden's in here during the recording. It's texting me all the channels going once. There's other people I know who like jump in. Like there's the big New York City NFT thing happening this week. But of course, like the more people who jump in on the creative side in this market, right? How much of those things are really going to be worth, right? Like we're in a bubble on this stuff right now. Bitcoin's worth $60,000 at a throw, but you still, it's not like any of this stuff is really solving income inequality or solving any of the problems we have as a society, or making things better for people en masse. A few people will get to, do upward mobility or move their places on the grand board. But it just doesn't, I've yet to see it fundamentally change the game. And if anything, particularly on the crypto side, we may just find ourselves with an even deeper divide between those who are participating and have access to the crypto economy and those who don't. And there's in the long run, the idea of a non-fungible token, the idea of something tradable, a digital asset that is verifiable and tradable and portable for people, that feels like a fundamental building block for anything that resembles a metaverse or a digital world that acts more like the real world, right? Like, and I can see that absolutely being like, a real good. I'm not so hot on the scarcity side of things, right? Like, oh, there's only so many of these, but the idea that like, oh, if I bought a pair of Nikes and then wanted my avatar to have that pair of Nikes, or maybe more to the point, if I buy a book and then I want to have a digital copy of that book so I can reference it in any platform that I want to, or if I buy a song, or if I, have access to an asset somewhere, that I have that access to that asset everywhere, that I can dig. I can truly dig that. That feels good. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, random Noah rant. Blake, you staying on the like talking about anything not directly immersive, because we're just like, everything else is in the can right now.
Please forgive us, people. We're coming off of spooky season. We are all exhausted.
Yeah.
Give us this one.
Things are good. But this is kind of related. And speaking of, because Squid Game's got crypto. Squid Game is something that no one should get involved with. It's apparently a scam. Not even apparently. It's, I will say.
Wait, Squid Game or
Squid Coin?
Squid
Game apparently you can get very wealthy playing, but it's not worth the risk. I would still highly advise people not to get involved with Squid Game.
Right. Squid Coin, even worse, apparently. And there was an activation for Squid Game. Actually, not only was there an activation here in LA, in Koreatown, like over the weekend, they like busted out a version of the red light, green light robot. And so they did that to entertain people, which is kind of creepy. But still, God love them. Glad they did it. Netflix did that. Apparently, there was like a seemingly unofficial. There's like a whole bunch of Eventbrites built up for Squid Game stuff like around the country, none of which seems to be official. Of which some people are like buying tickets, and we've been trying to figure out like who might be behind this, because you know what, we'll talk about it, but we sure as hell aren't gonna list or send people off to go to the unofficial Squid Game activation.
Please don't get murdered.
Yeah, but you also know me. I'll go to literally everything. I'm 100% going to the unofficial Squid Game activation. That sounds like exactly the kind of janky nonsense that I love.
Yeah, we won't be officially covering that. Or maybe reporting back if you survive the process. Also, if someone's doing that and they don't actually have Netflix's permission, it'll just go the way of the Stranger Things bar. They'll quickly be shut down. I'm kind of surprised they haven't been shut down already. But
I mean, I am sure we are going to enjoy playing The Game of the Octopus, a not copyrighted production, in a few months. But speaking of Korean media, a small pandemic addiction of mine, and I've got to thank Michael Anderson of our friends at ARGNet for getting me hooked on this, has been Korean immersive game shows is kind of the phrase I want to use. So, beginning in about March of 2020, I started watching Busted on Netflix, which is this amazing, almost indescribable show in that it is, in a certain sense, a reality show, in that it is 6 or so celebrities who assume characters and sort of LARP their way through a murder mystery where everyone else has the script but them. But there are also heavily scripted elements, including scripted actors, huge, clearly very expensive escape room sets, multi-season arcs about evil organizations and their enemies. It's just this baffling mess, and I am utterly hooked on it. And so that was my gateway drug. From there, I fell into The Genius, which is just a bunch of people from various different fairly intelligence-requiring fields, but requiring different types of intelligence. So you'll get, a professional gambler, and you'll get a neurosurgeon, and you'll get, an incredibly popular TV anchor, and they will be sent to play zero-sum games of social manipulation against each other in a giant... It almost looks like a cross between an Agatha Christie mansion and, the set of Saw. It's a very peculiarly aesthetic show. And all of this has culminated in my current addiction, which season 4 of just ended, which I will probably be spending the most time talking about, which has been The Great Escape, in which 6 incredibly dull, incredibly charming, kind of C and B list Korean celebrities are put into the most elaborate escape rooms I have ever seen in my life. We are talking multi-million dollar sets, huge casts of actors, mechanics. Occasionally the set itself will require, movement or trap doors or expertly scouted locations. Huge production design. And only to ever be performed once for these lucky 6 guys. With the catch that they don't feel so lucky, and that they're incredibly dull, and their escape rooms are on no time limits, and they are only let out after they competed. So early seasons especially expect a lot of them, bumbling around for 6 hours in, a Hollywood-quality haunted house, losing their minds, not figuring out a puzzle.
Oh, wow.
It's an incredibly charming show, and even though we're kind of starting to return to in-person immersive, I do miss blockbuster scope. And this show by far scratches that itch. There is one episode, the final episode, the final room. Each room is done in 2 episodes of the 3rd season, which I was watching during the pandemic. Actually brought a tear to my eye, just in terms of like, oh my god, I wish I was here. I remember the feeling that I am seeing these people have. The room was a time travel themed room in which they were sent to the 1920s, to Japanese occupied Korea, to help with the Korean independence movement. And they just borrowed the set from a Netflix period drama, Mr. Sunshine. They enter the room. They have built, the room that the time machine was in. They get in the time machine, and then the door to the time machine opens up. They have spun them around, similar to the mechanics, almost if you know, on Rise of the Resistance. And suddenly they are in a fully functional, like, small village with, like, a working trolley and, like, at least 3 dozen actors and multiple shops.
Is this
and
inside
street
or
vendors.
outside?
Outside! They
It's
have a full
outside.
village with
Okay.
multiple
So this isn't a
indoor
full-on
locations.
This isn't a full-on Schenectady, New York thing, right? They didn't build the indoors outside. They did just
They didn't.
brought them.
Well,
Okay, yeah.
It's
a little bit like that.
It is outside, but there's full indoor sets as well. All the
Right.
key locations in town, the Western style hotel and the liquor shop that's secretly a front for the resistance movement have, huge things that they can wander through. They just built like a medieval castle with both interiors and exteriors and its surrounding historic village for season 4. The most impressive one, the one that was mind-blowing this season. They did a takeoff on The Cell, that old movie where it's, we're diving into the mind of a serial killer to try to figure out what's going on with his plot. Only they fused it with Jumanji. The inside of the serial killer's mind was a small room with a table with a board game they were obsessed with in the room. But as the people play the board game, the room is on a series of conveyor belts and, dropping lifts. And also, they have, say they start in the shed could be a shell that they lift up, and now around them is the parlor, and then they go down a conveyor belt and they're in a third room, but all without getting up from this gameplay table. It is so mind-blowing, the budgets they spend on this. I cannot get over that. But even within that they manage to get a group of people who you grow accustomed to in a non-competitive environment. It is sort of the parasocial version of going to immersive with, the same group of people over and over, and slowly figuring out likes and dislikes as a group.
Is each season the same group? Like, is it been one cast this entire time?
The whole show is one cast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They are likely going to change it for season 5 because the youngest member of the group has compulsory military service. But it's a writer on Korean SNL who also has a few Netflix specials, a former pro wrestler, 2 kind of older, a little bit washed up K-pop stars, a pretty successful MMA fighter who has made the transition into kind of acting and variety programs. He almost kind of feels like the Korean version of The Rock.
Okay.
And the youngest member, who is a pretty successful younger pop star. And you've got this wide range of ages and backgrounds. And while there are definitely some personality clashes, at least at first, they overwhelmingly grow to love each other after at least one season, until it very much feels like this is an escape room family. It is
Well, and you
so
say,
charming.
and so you say season, so like the episodes, like is each season one of these themes, and then there's like a number of
So
episodes as they're dealing with the one theme, or
each
is
each season is about 5 or 6 rooms, and each room is 2 episodes. And so
okay. And the rooms
the
are each one of these big themes. So like the time travel one, that'd be 2 episodes, but they build this huge
yes,
thing, and the
for only
seasons
2
and this
episodes.
for only 2 episodes, and they'll build 5 of that kind of thing
5
in
or
the course
6
of
of them.
years. Yeah.
Yes. One
Wow.
of the things that
Wow.
I also should bring up that I love for people who are kind of like into cinematic universe stuff is that they've built out kind of a cinematic universe of escape rooms. And so, they've got kind of an in-universe version of almost like an X-Files style investigation team.
Mm.
And they'll be in a room and realize like, "Oh my god, we're in the X-Files series." Or they have a recurring zombie plot that shows up for a lot of their horror rooms, or a whole series about a German exorcist, and these all cross over and intersect with each other and have slowly built out this oddly fleshed out universe. And it's wonderful seeing their faces rise and fall as they realize whether they are in one of their favored or hated plot lines.
Awesome.
And what's the name of this again, Blake?
This show is The Great Escape. I have been finding it subtitled on uh, r/Korean Variety, so I believe
So it's not on Netflix, but you can definitely
this
find
one
it
is
on the
not on
internet.
Netflix. Busted is on Netflix,
Okay.
and I would also highly recommend the first 2 seasons of that. Season 3 got a little, but no, Busted and The Great Escape. For anyone who is very into immersive theater and production design for 3-dimensional space and experience design, the show is a ton of fun. And also similar to how you were speaking earlier about Inscryption, and how for anyone kind of interested in the crafting of an experience, that this can be a lesson not just within the video
Mhm.
game space.
Yeah.
I think the experience design and the way they structure a non-competitive game is a really interesting lesson. And beyond that, for people more interested in the production side of things, they do end every season with a making of special where they go through the construction and the scripting
Nice.
and alternate puzzles that they considered and puzzles that they accidentally brute forced or missed. And there are errors. There's a famous incident where a cat wanders onto the set, and the production team has to just be like, "Okay, we're just running with it. It's a haunted house. It's spooky. Great." So, it's for people interested in that side of things, there's a lot on offer as well. So, would highly recommend.
And
Fan-
these sound kind of familiar to, I don't know, Escape the Night, which is like a YouTube series with a bunch of
Yes.
YouTubers from 2016, which I caught up on earlier this year because I'm very late to the game. But it has some of those like kind of similar elements where they like bring together a bunch of YouTubers, and it's like it's kind of immersive and it's kind of escape roomy, and it was like, oh, this like hits that does kind of what you're talking about, like,
It,
oh, it's nice to watch this. Like,
it's nice to watch it, and also it's so nice to see people get that like immersive sparkle. I guess, like, speaking more broadly, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Like, have you ever brought like a kid to Disneyland for the first time and gotten to see the look on their face? And like, how would you compare that to like when you brought an adult to Sleep No More with you? I feel like it's a very similar face.
I think it is because it's like kind of blowing someone's mind, right? Like they haven't experienced this before. Disneyland, it's like they kind of know what to expect, but it's like, oh, you're at Disneyland. Or yeah, it's like, oh, you just went through Sleep No More, you went through Then She Fell. Like it's one of those like transformative things. So you're right. And you talked about that last week too, is like people realized they were in like an immersive thing and like figured it out and how to like play with it. And it's great to see.
It's really, rewarding as an immersive evangelist to get to see that. And as someone who loves the field, getting to see a show where over 4 seasons now, people have gone from being kind of terrified of immersive and not knowing how to play with the actors to loving the genre and like eagerly diving in, like, what's the mission this week? That is great.
I don't know if any of us know, is there any kind of like immersive scene in Korea that like kind of helped spawn this, or did it kind of spin out of something else?
So there's a big escape room scene in Korea, I know. But what this is mostly spun out of is the Korean variety trend kind of picking up on that. There's a whole subgenre of Korean variety programming that's really based in, we've taken, actors you like and we're going to send them on an adventure. And sometimes this is like a real world adventure where it's, hey, we got 4 actors you like and we're going to have them play stupid little field day games while they stay at Airbnbs across the country. Or it can be something a little bit more scripted or fantastical, like this, or there's a show called New Journey to the West, or there's an incredibly popular, incredibly long-running show called Running Man that I could not begin to competently speak about, and my friends who are much deeper into this than I am would bite my head off if I got things wrong about. But that was kind of one of the earlier shows, I believe, that really started to build this out. And I think one thing that's going to be just interesting observing from the international market is, now that we've gotten both, a historical ramp up in terms of immersion on Korean TV, and we've had the mega hit of the deadly immersive experience that was Squid Game for its players, I'm wondering if there's going to be, the creation of a market there, especially after we leave the pandemic. I know, hop, skip, and a jump across the channel over to Tokyo. They recently opened their first, like, blockbuster style immersive.
I think
Show
this stuff
at
this stuff is taken off all over Asia, right?
I just reviewed a show from Singapore. It was great.
Yeah,
I loved it.
right. So like, not to slide a plug in, but like, Melinda Lau is going to come over from Singapore to the summit and talk about the potential for immersive in Singapore and Southeast Asia, like in general. And we know escape rooms like started in Japan and then like popped over here for a second, didn't quite take off, and then wound up in like Eastern Europe, and then proliferated from there, like came back to the States through that cycle. We know that there are these elaborate murder mystery events that are called scripted murders in China. We know that there are these really, really big, immersive things going on in China. We know that Sleep No More has been running in Shanghai for a long time. We know that the potential is huge, and it's like already happening. If anything, I kind of wonder if the popularity of this material over there is going to, impact its popularity in the West in terms of getting people excited about it. I'm also really interested in this idea of more television and more games borrowing the tropes, borrowing the techniques, or even just showing this stuff is going to get people interested in like, oh, I wish I could go do that. Right. Because like, there's someone who's like encountering this game show or who encounters the movie Escape Room or something or whatever. And it's the first time they've even heard of the concept. And they're like, you mean I could go do a thing that was something like that? It's like, yeah, you totally could. Cost you $40 and then they'll be in. Right.
So I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. I don't know if they have anything in English, but just a little teaser of something I'm investigating in Philadelphia that I have not brought up with you yet, Noah, so you're going to hear this for the first time.
Okay.
Appealing to some of the international students in the Penn area, I believe I have found a U.S. script murder location. I don't know what you'd call it, a script murder parlor, a script murder venue,
But they're
but
using that term and not murder mystery.
well, they're not using any of those terms, at least not
Okay.
in English. But perusing their website, it appears that they have long, multi-hour scripted games that all the posters for have tons of blood on them. So I've been trying to figure out what this place was for maybe 3 months now, because I pass it maybe 3 times a week. It's maybe a 20-minute walk from my office.
Mm.
And now that I've been seeing all of these articles about script murders, I am pretty sure that's what this place has on offer. So, no guarantees, everybody, but watch this space.
All right. That actually is a pretty decent place for us to wrap on. So, obviously, we didn't talk about anything that would be pick of the week material. So, we won't do pick of the week. What we will
Pick
do.
of the week, go watch The Great Escape.
So, what we will do is stop the recording in Zencaster in a minute and then open the floor up because both Spencer and Jaden are around. And so we'll pull them up and we'll get a conversation going on over here in the main stage in the NoPro Discord. Hey, if you're listening to this in the podcast form, know that we do record these Wednesday night in our Discord. It's also totally possible to come into the Discord and connect with other folks. We're constantly refining it so that there's easier to navigate. Nowadays, we have just 2 sections that are publicly visible. There's the bulletin board, which has the listings for all the various different domains, so news and event listings in both regional and subject categories. And then we also have just Main Street, as we like to call it, which has the big general chat. And then it also has the chat area called the Cafe, if you want to come in and find other immersive folks to talk with. And yeah, on behalf of the review crew this week, I want to say thank you for listening, and we will be back in a week's time.
See you then, folks.
Bye.